I was born with two hearts, but my older brother, Aiden, has a congenital heart defect. Because of this, my parents tried to force me to donate one of my hearts to him. I refused and moved to a small town to get away from them, because giving up that heart would kill me. Later, after I was married, Aiden had a heart attack and my wife, Chloe, also demanded that I donate a heart to him. It's just one heart, Ethan. How can you be so selfish? But I want to live too. Without it, I'll die. Chloe's expression hardened. You have two hearts. If you give one away, you'll still have one left. You'll live, but your brother is different. Without your heart, he will die. Ignoring my struggles, Chloe pushed me into the operating room. I explained helplessly, I had surgery when I was a child. I already donated one of my hearts, and that heart is inside you. But Chloe wouldn't listen at all, ordering the anesthesiologist to quickly come over and administer the anesthetic. Don't worry, I'll make sure you survive, she said. Chloe's mentor, Dr. Peterson, was a renowned transplant surgeon, so she was confident in her ability to keep me alive. Once Aiden recovers, our whole family will finally accept you, and I'll be right here by your side. After some time, Chloe removed a heart from my body. Without a moment to examine it, she rushed with my heart into Aiden's operating room. I was left alone on the table, and the sudden, violent blare of the heart monitor startled the doctors standing by. How did he die? I thought he had two hearts, one of Chloe's colleagues said, confused. You actually believed that story from Dr. Davis? Another replied. It's better this way. He was a terrible person. He refused to save her husband and even had the nerve to try and seduce her. So what do we do now? He's dead. We wait for someone to claim the body. If no one comes, the morgue can dispose of it. With that, all the doctors filed out of the room. Chloe, meanwhile, was completely focused on Aiden's surgery, which she successfully completed several hours later. It was only then that she remembered me. In the hallway, she ran into one of the colleagues who had been in my operating room. Where's my husband? The colleague paused for a moment before answering. Didn't you just operate on him? Don't worry, he's being monitored. The nurses on the floor will take care of your husband. Chloe didn't notice the odd phrasing. Thinking her colleague was right, she went back to her office to finish her work. A day later, Aiden woke up with Chloe at his bedside. Aiden, you're finally awake. Seeing Chloe, Aiden was so overcome with emotion that he began to cry. Chloe quickly comforted him. Don't worry, the surgery was a complete success. Your heart will be perfectly fine from now on. Aiden touched his chest. The thought that the illness that had plagued him for years was finally gone made him cling to Chloe, sobbing. She gently reminded him not to let his emotions get the better of him. A passing nurse saw the scene and teased, Dr. Davis, you take such good care of your husband. Chloe froze, remembering I was supposed to be in another room on the same floor. She started to explain, You've misunderstood. He's not. But Aiden chose that moment to clutch his chest, cutting her off. Still, Chloe felt a pang of unease. She realized she hadn't seen me at all since the surgery. Aiden, you get some rest. I'm gonna check on Ethan. But Aiden suddenly grabbed her hand. I had this surgery without telling Mom and Dad. This is the most critical time for my recovery, and I'm scared I won't heal properly if I'm alone. Seeing Aiden's pale face, Chloe's heart softened. She figured the doctors and nurses on the floor would look after me as a favor to her, so she relaxed. All right, I'll stay with you for a few more days. Only after watching Chloe sit down did Aiden slowly close his eyes. In the morgue, an orderly looked at my body with concern. It's been 2 days and still no one's come to claim him. What are we supposed to do? Another orderly, busy cleaning, replied, What are you staring at? Let's just finish our work so we can go home. The two of them then worked together to unceremoniously stuff my body into a bag. Look at him. Died in such a sorry state, probably wasn't a good person. Good, bad, what's the difference? They all turned to ash just the same. True. Still a shame, though. He was so young. 2 more days passed. Seeing that Aiden was recovering well, Chloe finally remembered to check on me. She went to my room but found the bed empty. She asked a nurse at the station, The patient in this room, where is he? The nurse looked up and saw it was Chloe. He was discharged. Chloe was annoyed when she heard this. I had just had major surgery. Where could I have gone instead of resting in the hospital? She pulled out her phone and tried to call me, but it went straight to voicemail. Fine, if you want to go die out there, don't you dare come crying to me, she fumed, storming back to Aiden's room. Aiden sensed Chloe's anger and said, Is Ethan furious? Does he refuse to forgive you? This is all my fault. I'll go talk to him right now and clear things up. I don't want you two to fight because of me. He made a show of trying to get out of bed, but Chloe immediately stopped him. Why are you worrying about him? Your job right now is to focus on your recovery. That way, Mom and Dad will be thrilled with the good news when you're discharged. As for Ethan, he's not going to die. He's already out of the hospital. Chloe remembered how I had begged her before the surgery, and a feeling of resentment lingered. She couldn't understand why I would refuse to save my own brother. Then, seeing how considerate Aiden was, always thinking of my well-being, she felt even more strongly that I was the lesser man. She figured if I was stubborn enough to check myself out, then I could have some time to cool off. It would be fine to call me when Aiden was ready to go home. In the doctor's lounge, her colleagues were laughing, but the moment Chloe walked in, they all fell silent. Chloe found their behavior odd. "What were you all talking about?" No one answered. After a long pause, a colleague came over and put an arm around her shoulder. "What else? We were just saying what a devoted couple you two are." Chloe thought about how I had been forced to donate my heart, and she took it as a sign of my deep love for her. Even though I had been coerced, I had still helped her and saved a life. With that in mind, she forgave my sudden disappearance, but the fact that I wasn't answering her calls still infuriated her. Her colleague noticed her troubled expression. "Is your husband feeling down?" Chloe didn't respond. The colleague went on, "He just had a major operation. It's normal for him to be moody. You should be patient with him. Maybe do something nice to cheer him up." Hearing this, Chloe's expression softened. She remembered how much I loved the cakes from the bakery near our apartment and decided to stop by on her way home. Later, she walked into our apartment holding the box. "Honey, I bought your favorite cakes." There was no reply. As she set the box down, she saw the divorce papers I had left on the table a week earlier. The moment she had asked me to donate my heart, I had made up my mind to leave her. Chloe stared at the papers in disbelief. Was he serious? It was just one heart, and he dared to divorce her over it? She angrily threw the box of cakes into the trash. "If you don't want this family, then don't ever come back." Just then, her phone rang. Chloe answered it. "Chloe, dear, where has Ethan been lately?" It was my father. It was rare for him to call and ask about me. Usually, the only person he ever mentioned was Aiden. Chloe thought for a moment, realizing that my parents were the only ones who could force me to show my face. So, she told my father about Aiden's surgery. My parents rushed to the hospital that very night. The moment Aiden saw them, he burst into tears. After the three of them embraced and cried for a while, my parents asked about me. "Where's your brother? He's on the same floor and he hasn't even come to see you. He's already been discharged," Aiden replied. My mother was angry. "Discharged? He must be in great shape to be discharged just a few days after surgery. Isn't he afraid he'll drop dead out there?" My father cut her off. "Don't say that. Even though Aiden has had the transplant, we can't guarantee there won't be complications later. If Ethan dies, what will happen to Aiden?" Hearing this, my mother quickly corrected herself. You're right. If anyone's going to die, it should be after Aiden. Don't you worry, Aiden. Mom and Dad will always protect you." A wave of warmth washed over Aiden as he heard his parents' words. The next day, when Chloe entered the room, she saw the heartwarming scene of my parents doting on Aiden. The sight was jarring, because she realized she had never once seen them treat me with such affection. "Oh, Chloe, you're here. We have you to thank for Aiden's new heart." My parents showered Chloe with gratitude, without mentioning my name once. Chloe asked them if they had heard from me. My parents' mood soured at the mention of my name. "Why worry about him? He's been discharged, so he must be fine. You should focus on Aiden. He's been frail his whole life, while Ethan has always been as strong as an ox." My parents had always wanted to set Aiden up with Chloe, but they never said so openly because of his health. Now things were perfect. If Chloe and I divorced, she and Aiden could finally be together. Before Chloe could respond, another doctor walked in. "Dr. Davis, you're so devoted to your husband, here every single day." Hearing this, my parents assumed their wish had come true, and a faint blush crept up Aiden's neck. Chloe, however, looked furious. "Who told you he was my husband?" she demanded. The doctor didn't notice Chloe's tone and replied with a laugh. "Oh, everyone on the floor knows. You don't have to pretend." With that, she left the room to attend to her duties. My parents took Chloe's arm. "Chloe, since Ethan isn't here anyway, if the staff thinks Aiden is your husband, they'll take better care of him." Chloe glanced at Aiden's uncomfortable expression, suppressed her rage, and walked back to her office. Before Chloe could find the doctor to question her, someone mentioned that her old mentor was visiting. Chloe immediately rushed to the department head's office. The moment she saw Dr. Peterson, her face lit up. "Dr. Peterson, it's been so many years. How have you been?" Dr. Peterson nodded, smiling as he looked her over. "I heard you performed a heart transplant yourself. The student has truly surpassed the master." He then reminisced about the surgery he had performed on Chloe when she was just a little girl. remarking how he never expected her to follow in his footsteps. Chloe stared at him, stunned. "What surgery are you talking about, sir?" Dr. Peterson was surprised by her reaction. "Your heart transplant, of course. The one you had when you were a child." The office fell silent for a moment before someone burst in. "Dr. Davis, you need to come quick. The family in room 32 is fighting." Hearing room 32, Chloe immediately thought of Aiden and sprinted down the hall to his room. As she entered, she heard a woman shouting, "How dare you deny it? My nephew is the one who donated his heart to your daughter." Chloe rushed forward to separate the two women. When Chloe's mother saw her, her eyes welled up with tears. The other woman, seeing Chloe, pointed and yelled, "It's you! My nephew Ethan's heart is inside your chest." Chloe stared at her in utter disbelief, my words suddenly echoing in her mind. What was happening? My parents walked in just then and saw my aunt, Carol, standing there screaming at Chloe. Seeing my parents, Aunt Carol seemed to gain confidence. But my parents ignored her completely and went straight to Chloe's side. "Chloe, are you all right?" My aunt was surprised. "Robert, how do you know them?" Before my father could answer, my uncle, Robert, walked in and firmly pulled his wife out of the room. Chloe turned to her mother, desperate for an explanation. What did she mean? What was she saying about my heart? But her mother stopped her from saying more. A moment later, my aunt and uncle came back into the room. My aunt was now smiling apologetically at Chloe and her mother. "Oh dear, I'm so sorry. I was confused and got my facts mixed up. Please don't be upset." My uncle also stepped forward. "Chloe, please forgive your aunt's behavior. I apologize to you and your mother on her behalf." He then turned and offered another apology to Chloe's mother. Chloe couldn't understand the sudden change in my aunt's demeanor. She opened her mouth to ask another question, but my father interrupted. "That's enough. Be more careful next time. Even though Chloe is family now, you can't behave like that." My aunt's expression turned strange at my father's words. Aiden had looked pale and worried throughout the entire exchange. Only when things calmed down did he finally relax enough to speak to Chloe. But Chloe's mind was racing. She had no memory whatsoever of having a heart transplant. When Dr. Peterson had mentioned it, she had assumed he was simply mistaken due to his age. But for my aunt to say the same thing was too strange to be a coincidence. After a few brief words with my family, Chloe pulled her mother into a nearby break room. "Mom, are you hiding something from me?" Her mother avoided her gaze. "What would I be hiding? You're overthinking things." Seeing that her mother wouldn't talk, Chloe decided she had to find Dr. Peterson. She tried calling my number again, but there was still no answer. Chloe searched the offices for Dr. Peterson but couldn't find him. A colleague told her the department head had invited him to join the morning rounds, and they were likely at room 32. Chloe immediately hurried there. Inside the room, a resident was speaking to Aiden. "You're a lucky man. Your wife, Dr. Davis, worked so hard to save you. We're all quite jealous." Dr. Peterson looked at the young man in the bed, thinking he looked vaguely familiar. Chloe burst into the room. "I'm not his wife. This is my husband's brother." Aiden's expression tightened, and he said nothing. The other doctors exchanged confused glances. They had all heard that Dr. Davis's husband was the one who had the transplant and was recovering in room 32. My husband was already discharged. He was in room 8. At her words, one of the other doctors went pale, and the medical chart in his hand slipped and clattered to the floor. The department head shot him a furious look, and the doctor scrambled to pick it up. Just as the atmosphere grew tense, the door opened and my parents walked in, followed by my aunt and uncle. Seeing the crowd of doctors, they assumed it was for a consultation on Aiden's condition, and my parents immediately stepped forward. "Doctor, how is our son doing?" My aunt followed close behind them. She had come looking for me to ask for money. After waiting outside my apartment for days with no luck, she had contacted my parents. When she heard about Aiden's surgery, she and my uncle rushed to the hospital, certain she would find me there. As long as she found me, she knew she'd get her money. Dr. Peterson was about to speak with my parents when he noticed my aunt. "What a coincidence. Aren't you the mother of that little boy with 2 hearts? What brings you here?" My aunt's face fell. She looked up and recognized Dr. Peterson as the surgeon who had operated on me all those years ago. My parents were stunned as well. How had I become my aunt's son? Chloe grabbed Dr. Peterson's arm excitedly. "Doctor, what did you just say? What did you mean?" Dr. Peterson, unaware of the secret deal between Chloe's mother and my aunt and uncle, only knew the basic facts. He knew I had donated a heart to Chloe, making me the person who saved her life. "You were just asking me about your surgery, weren't you? Her son was the donor. He's the boy who gave you his heart." My aunt quickly denied it. "No, you're mistaken. We don't have a son." My uncle nodded in agreement, but my parents' faces were a mask of confusion and horror. They remembered how, consumed by Aiden's illness, they had left me in the care of my aunt and uncle for years. It was why I was never close to them as an adult, and why they always favored Aiden. Dr. Peterson was taken aback that they would deny it, making the situation even more awkward. The department head was about to intervene when Chloe's mother entered the room. She had come to speak with my aunt about keeping the secret, never imagining she'd walk into a room with so many people, let alone the very surgeon who had performed the operation. Seeing her, Dr. Peterson's voice grew louder. "Your mother is here. Why don't you ask her if it's true?" Instantly, every eye in the room turned to Chloe's mother. She looked as if the weight of the world was on her shoulders. Chloe knew the truth from her mother's expression alone, but she needed to hear the words. She needed a direct answer, or she felt she might actually lose her mind. "Mom, is it true? What Dr. Peterson just said, is it true?" Hearing his words, her mother knew the secret could no longer be kept. As everyone watched, she slowly, painfully, nodded her head. Seeing that their secret was out, my aunt and uncle turned to flee, but Chloe blocked their path. From his bed, Aiden listened in a confused haze, feeling things spiraling far beyond his control. His new heart had been aching terribly, making it hard to breathe, and the shock of the revelation caused him to pass out. The department head was the first to notice Aiden's distress and rushed to his side. The other doctors quickly ushered everyone else out of the room. Outside in the hallway, Chloe stared daggers at my aunt and uncle. My parents, though worried about Aiden, knew they had a more urgent matter to address. As my aunt and uncle whispered about what to do, Chloe's mother suddenly fell to her knees in front of my parents. "I am so sorry. I have wronged you both so terribly." Everything was happening so fast Chloe could barely process it. She moved to help her mother up, but her mother began to confess everything. Chloe listened as her mother explained that as a child, she had a weak heart. The family had desperately searched for a donor and, by chance, had found me. They had then paid my aunt and uncle a large sum of money in exchange for one of my hearts. Her mother had assumed she and I would never cross paths again. So, when Chloe grew up with no memory of her illness, her mother decided to keep it a secret. She never imagined that we would meet and fall in love. She apologized profusely to my parents, explaining that at the time, she truly believed my aunt and uncle were my real parents. My parents listened, and their world collapsed. They had never paid any attention to me, so they had no idea I had endured such an ordeal as a child. My aunt and uncle stood before Chloe, utterly ashamed. They had known about my unique condition, and their desperation for money had led them to make a terrible choice. My aunt hesitated before speaking. "Well, Chloe and Ethan are married now, aren't they? A husband and wife sharing a heart, it's like a match made in heaven. They can have a long and happy life together." But Chloe screamed like a madwoman, "A future? There is no future." She lunged at them, tackling my uncle to the ground. Pinning him down, she began to beat him relentlessly. "How could you do this? How could you?" She rained punches down on him until his face was a bloody mess. My aunt tried to pull her off, but Chloe shoved her so hard she stumbled back and hit her head against the wall, splitting it open. My father was frozen in shock by the violence, but my mother was the first to snap out of it. She murmured, "If Ethan only had one heart left after his childhood." Then when he gave his heart to Aiden, before she could finish the thought, my father looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. "No," he whispered. "No, it can't be." My uncle struggled beneath her. "His heart is inside you. What right do you have to judge me?" He managed to land a punch, knocking her back. Chloe fell to the floor and began to laugh, a wild, unhinged sound. "It was me. It was all my fault. He told me so clearly, and I didn't believe him. I put him through it all over again." Chloe felt a searing pain throughout her body, sharpest in her chest. She began to pound on her own heart. Her mother, unable to watch, knelt beside her. "My child, this was fate. You can't blame yourself. Accept fate?" How could she possibly accept this fate? She had lived because of one of my hearts, only to personally carve out the other and give it away. She had betrayed me. She had sent me to my death with her own hands. My mother rushed over to Chloe. "Where is Ethan? You said he was discharged, but where is he now?" The question jolted Chloe back to reality. That's right. If I were dead, how could I have been discharged? I had to be alive. I was just angry with her, hiding somewhere. She had to find out the truth. She believed I would never truly abandon her. She slammed open the door to the doctor's lounge, startling the physician on duty. Seeing it was only Chloe, he relaxed. "Aren't you supposed to be with your husband? What are you doing here?" Chloe ignored him and rushed to her colleague's desk. The patient in room 8. Were you the one who processed his discharge? The doctor's face soured at the mention of my name. She remembered the stories Aiden had told about me. Yes, I did. What about it? She said with disgust. He was gone, so of course he had to be discharged. Chloe stared at her, horrified. The doctor continued, you were the one who did the surgery, weren't you? He stopped breathing the second you left the operating table. Chloe shook her head frantically. No, you're lying. That's not what happened. Thinking Chloe was simply feeling a pang of guilt, her colleague tried to console her. Don't feel too bad. He almost got your husband killed. Saving him was the one good deed of his life. At least now he won't be reincarnated as an animal. Chloe clutched her head and slowly sank to the floor, unable to believe I was really dead. She slammed her fists against her skull. Suddenly, a thought struck her. The body, she whispered. What happened to the body? Her colleague shrugged. I don't know. It was probably disposed of. It was in the morgue for days and no one ever came to claim it. Hearing this, Chloe bolted from the room and ran towards the hospital morgue. She didn't know how she could ever accept it, but she knew she had to see my body for herself to believe I was truly gone. She ran all the way to the morgue and asked the attendant on duty about me, but he had no information. Just as Chloe was about to give up, an orderly walked past. Chloe's eyes fell on the phone in the woman's hand. She recognized it as mine. The screen showed a picture of the two of us from college. Chloe grabbed the woman's arm. Where did you get that phone? The orderly, intimidated, told the truth. I took it off one of the bodies. Chloe's voice was shaking. Where is his body? He was sent for cremation days ago. I have no idea where the ashes went. At the word cremation, Chloe's legs gave out and she collapsed. The terrified orderly threw the phone on the ground. It wasn't my fault. Leave me alone. The body was unclaimed. We were just following procedure. Take the phone. Just don't come after me. She then turned and fled. Chloe stared at the phone, at the picture of me smiling at her. A gut-wrenching sob escaped her. Ethan, what have I done? I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please forgive me. Please come back to me. I was out of my mind. I just thought if you gave your heart to your brother, our family would finally accept you, and you would have the family you always wanted. She didn't know that ever since meeting her, ever since she had saved me, I no longer cared about my family's approval. She didn't know that my will to live had died on that operating table, that I stopped fighting not because of the anesthetic, but because the very person who had once pulled me from the darkness was now the one pushing me back into it. To my dying breath, I never understood why my brother always managed to take everything that was mine. My parents' love and then the love of my life. Perhaps I simply wasn't meant to exist in this world. Chloe took my phone and went back to Aiden's room. She had questions for him. When Aiden had woken up earlier, he had seen our parents sitting with heavy hearts. They hadn't rushed to his side when he awoke, but had simply sat there, sighing. Chloe's mother was also sitting in silence. Aiden wondered if I had shown up and told them something, but that didn't make sense. If I had appeared, my parents would have forced me to apologize to him for disappearing for so long. Besides, my aunt and uncle were still waiting outside the room. They wouldn't leave until they got their money. As Aiden puzzled over the situation, Chloe walked in. He immediately saw my phone in her hand and quickly prepared his defense. He clutched his chest, his eyes red with fake tears. Is Ethan still angry with me? Is that why he won't come see me? He said to Chloe. I knew I hurt him, but I had no choice. I have this condition. I would never have asked him to donate his heart if it wasn't a matter of life and death. His face was pale and he was breathing heavily, but for the first time, no one in the room rushed to comfort him. Aiden felt a sense of dread. Normally, everyone would be consoling him and cursing my name. My parents merely glanced at him and looked away. Chloe's face was like ice. Were you really so sick that you needed a transplant to survive? Aiden's heart skipped a beat, but he quickly composed himself. Of course I was. You saw my medical reports. Would I fake something like that? I'm not like my brother. I don't bribe people or lie. Did Ethan say something to you? Aiden didn't know what had prompted this, but in front of our parents, he had to maintain his story. Chloe walked right up to his bed and held out the phone. Is this your work? Aiden looked at the screen. It was filled with his iMessage history with me. The logs showed him gloating about being our parents' favorite, and detailed his plan to fake the severity of his illness to manipulate Chloe into forcing me to donate my heart. You think Mom and Dad will ever love you just because you came back? Dream on. You're just a poor farm boy, you'll always stink of it. You should have stayed in that miserable town with Aunt Carol and Uncle Robert for the rest of your life. You marry Chloe? You're not worthy of her. Mom and Dad already said that once I'm healthy, they want me to marry her. You're nothing but trash in this family. Believe me, if I tell Chloe to make you donate your heart, you'll do it. I told you, you can't win against me. You have no parents, no one loves you. Why are you even still alive? If I were you, I'd just die on the operating table and get it over with. The messages were a relentless barrage of insults and psychological abuse. Chloe couldn't begin to imagine what it must have felt like for me to read those words. Her eyes were bloodshot, and her hand gripped the phone so tightly her knuckles were white. Did you write these? Aiden was frantic. No, Ethan faked them to frame me. He was angry about donating his heart, so he made all this up. Chloe, don't be fooled. He's probably hiding somewhere, watching this, just waiting for you to turn on me. He's so malicious. All I asked for was one of his hearts, and he's perfectly fine, but he still does this to try and trick you. Aiden wailed, his voice filled with false indignation. My mother couldn't stand it anymore. She walked over to his bed and slapped him hard across the face. Aiden stared at her, stunned. You hit me? For him? What's so great about him? Chloe couldn't contain her rage any longer. She lunged forward and wrapped her hands around Aiden's throat. What do you think you are? Did you really believe I made Ethan give you his heart because I cared about you? The first time Chloe had met Aiden, she'd felt a strange connection to him. She couldn't describe it, but being near him felt familiar, almost instinctual. She had once thought it was some kind of karmic debt from a past life. But now she finally understood. It wasn't him. It was me. It was my heart beating inside her own chest. Aiden, still weak from the surgery, struggled feebly in her grasp. My father held my mother as they both wept. What have we done? How did this happen to our family? Just as Aiden was about to lose consciousness, Chloe's mother pulled her away. As Aiden gasped for air, he pleaded with our parents. Dad, Mom, it's all Ethan's trick. He faked everything. Just go find him and he'll confess. He failed to notice that our parents didn't move. They just stood there weeping. It was as if something inside Chloe finally snapped. She could not bear the thought of my heart beating inside such a vile, malicious man. She grabbed a pair of surgical scissors from the bedside table and, as everyone watched in horror, plunged them deep into Aiden's chest. The room erupted in screams. Chloe watched as Aiden collapsed onto the bed. Ethan, she whispered, I'm giving you your heart back. Please come back. I beg you. I can't live without you. But the only answer was the sound of panicked screaming. Other doctors rushed into the room, stopping dead in their tracks at the bloody scene. Chloe was arrested on suspicion of aggravated assault. After several hours of emergency surgery, Aiden died from his injuries. In the span of a few days, my parents had lost both of their sons. Their hair turned gray overnight. On her way to visit Chloe in jail, Chloe's mother met with my parents, who gave her something to pass along. They couldn't bring themselves to face Chloe, but they knew she wasn't the sole cause of the tragedy. It was their years of neglecting me that had set everything in motion. It was a guilt they would carry for the rest of their lives. Chloe looked at her mother, who seemed to have aged 10 years. Her mother handed her a small object. Chloe's eyes, which had been dull and lifeless, suddenly lit up. It was a small, woven lover's knot, a souvenir from a campus mixer during our freshman year of college. I had tucked a tiny slip of paper with her name on it deep inside its folds. I had recognized her the moment I first saw her. She never knew. All she knew back then was that she felt an inexplicable, instinctual pull towards me, a sense of deep familiarity. She could never understand the look in my eyes, the look of a boy who knew his own heart was beating in her chest, but could never bring himself to say the words. Chloe suddenly remembered a time when I had gently placed my hand over her heart and whispered, "It's good. If it had to be someone, I'm so glad it was you." She hadn't understood then, but now, she finally did. And it was too late. Chloe, a woman in her 20s, wept like a small child, her cries echoing in the empty room as she begged for me to come back. Her mother watched, helpless. She had known the whole truth but had concealed it all. She and I had recognized each other the very first time we met, but she had begged me never to speak of it. I had promised, but in the end, the truth had come out anyway. That night, news came from the prison that Chloe was dead. The coroner ruled it a suicide by hanging, one she must have planned before she was even incarcerated. While collecting her daughter's belongings, Chloe's mother found the lover's knot. On the tiny slip of paper tucked inside, I had written, "To win the heart of the one I love, and to never be parted."